We're about to go, okay?
Video show?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another night in our online communication workshop. It has been a challenging but meaningful week so far. We're on our final night with our final set of presenters. We're happy that you could join us. We're going live on Facebook and on YouTube channels, Central Jamaica Conference's Facebook page and YouTube channels. Thank you for joining us. I want to greet you on behalf of our conference president, Pastor Levi Johnson, our other administrators, directors, and staff, and wish for you a wonderful evening. Now, we have lined up for you this evening 2 presentations. We have first coming up talking about the new Adventist identity standards. Elder Nigel Cook, our communication director from the Jamaica Union Conference. And after, we'll be talking about social media best practices for local church communicators. Thanks for joining us. At this time, just before we bring on Elder Cook, he wants us to show you a video that was produced by the Seminary Adventist Church worldwide about our new identity standards. Please watch at this time. Okay, we're going to get back to that video as soon as we can get the audio right. So at this time, I'm going to invite Elder Nigel Cook to come in. And while he's coming in, just to let you know that we'll be having these videos staying on our channels for you to watch afterwards if you didn't get to join us on time. And we pray that it will be a blessing to you. Our intention is to continue to inspire, to uplift, and to educate and empower our local church communicators so that they can help to build bridges of hope in connecting the church to the community and connecting the church to God. Elder Cook, please come in and greet our brethren at this time.
Good evening. Good evening, participants and those who are viewing on YouTube. It is so good to have us here on this webinar. Just want to commend the Central Jamaica team for making it happen. And I pray that God will bless us as we go through this presentation. Now, I'd like to start off my presentation with something from Ellen G. White. And Ellen G. White says here from Pastoral Ministry, page 29, the message we have to bear. The message we have to bear is not a message that men need to cringe to declare. They are not to seek a cover for it or to conceal its origin and purpose. Its advocates must be men who will not hold their peace day or night. We are not to make less prominent the special truth that have separated us from the world and made us what we are, for they are fraught with eternal interest. God has given us light in regard to the things that are now taking place in the last remnant of time. And with pen and voice, we are to proclaim the truth to the world, not in a tame, spiritless way, but in demonstration of the Spirit and power of God. We start off with branding and branding as ownership, branding of live animals, machinery, and building. It was always the function of owners to brand what they have. Branding focus on the differences so that it determines the owner. The main focus there was name. Leviticus 20:43 says, you are to be holy, set apart to me, because I, the Lord, I am holy and have set you apart to be my own. So branding as a marketing tool is basically the work of the communication department for selling products and doing marketing. Their main focus there was for sales. A glimpse of the New York City shows how much advertising marketing has done and the competitive nature of what happens in busy urban cities like New York. Branding as a strategy is the expression of the essential truth of an organization, product, or service. It is their identity. It is a promise they make to the world. Sharing of values. Asset owned by administration to define strategy. It is executed by the communication department. The byproduct is unity. The essential focus consists of a holistic experience. So as the world becomes overwhelmed with information, as consumer brands evolve their approach, as content producers saturate the market, it is becoming increasingly important to find a way to help people to know that we are all Seventh-day Adventists. John 13:35 says, by this the world will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. So here's a familiar brand, McDonald's. And everyone anywhere, once they see the M, they know it stands for McDonald's. McDonald's has 36,899 restaurants in 120 countries. You know this brand too. It's Subway. And Subway has 33,749 restaurants in 102 countries. The Adventist Church has 150,000 plus congregations in 208 countries, far more than McDonald's and Subway put together. So what these companies have done over time is to vary their logo and to basically change it as time changes. So you'll find that Subway had the top logo, then the second, I believe the third one is their current logo right now that they use. A Coca-Cola, a Pepsi. In 1898, they had the top left logo, and they have changed over the years. And to this end, they now have the current logo, which is the one at the bottom right-hand corner. Starbucks went through a number of changes, but what is the significant thing here? The significant thing with both Pepsi or Coca-Cola, if you look, is that they're going for image without the name Pepsi or Coca-Cola, as in Pepsi and Coca-Cola. And in the Starbucks, it's a particular image. So once anyone would see that image, it is saying it is Starbucks. So the Seventh-day Adventist Church has a visual identity. Over time, we have the logo in various, in the old form. That's the Jamaica Union Conference. That's East Jamaica logo. That's logos in other countries. You see the differences. Please note them. This one has nothing on the building. So what we find is a non-integrated message or a weak image across the Seventh-day Adventist image or logo or global identity. Very, very weak. We had all kind of shape and color and style. In fact, the church has several logos. Logos for ANN, for Gain, for Hope Channel, for Pathfinder, Adventist Review, a whole plethora of logos. So what is necessary is the whole issue of convergence. Because, I mean, as you can see in the diagram, when you have a whole cluster of different logos and signs showing different things, there's confusion. So our greatest challenge in communication is not collaboration, it's convergence. Unless there's an intentional visual cohesion in every initiative, will not be heard in the cities. More than ever, we cannot afford to be visually fragmented. So how should we present ourselves? How can we set up a system that supports an ever-increasing number of formats, mediums, and materials? Most importantly, how can we create a system flexible enough to accommodate our diversity while still presenting ourselves as a unified body? In 1997, the logo was changed to this format. Basically has a 3-layer script or text below the logo. Our envelopes, letterheads were looking like this. So it was basically 3 colors: GC gold, GC green, GC gray, which was the writing. The gray was Seventh-day Adventist, the script written below the logo. The symbol was modified slightly. for the purpose of a better reproduction in both the digital and print application, and is now free to exist in isolation, detached from the name of the church or entity. So what we have now is a new logo. And some of the differences here with the logo is that if I was to show the comparison, the top where the flame is pointed upwards. It's a little more up, meaning the flames are pointing up more. Then the cross that is in the middle of the Bible, the center piece. In the former logo, it was more looking closer to a plus sign. So it being moved up further, it now resembles more of a cross. One of the big changes to the logo is the font. Advent Sans, we believe our mission is to proclaim the everlasting gospel in every language. That is why we worship Jesus in over 900 languages every week. Therefore, we decide to choose a font that could be easily extended to hundreds of languages. Built on the extensive language coverage of Noto Sans, Advent Sans will allow us to communicate consistently across the world. We have made extensive modification to the Latin and Cyrillic alphabet, and we have made some recommendation for non-Western characters. So here's an example of some of the changes we do for Sans, for Advent Sans. So what we had before at the top was the previous type and format of the logo. Below is the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Sans, and it looks better too. The layout is far more pleasant to the eyes and readable. So that's Advent Sans as it is now. Another change to the logo is the colors that were used. Because colors mean different things across the world, there is no official global color or color system. The symbol is now allowed to exist in a variety of colors. Moving forward, it is recommended that symbol only be used in a solid color version. So bear that in mind. Going forward, the symbol is going to be used in a solid color version. The symbol may be a different color than the accompanying word marks, but all elements of the symbol should appear in the same color. So what the World Church has done in 2017 is to adopt some primary colors, which are empire, earth, grapevine, denim, campfire, tree frog, ming, warm, and cool, with warm and cool being secondary colors. Now, in terms of isolation, the logo can be viewed like this, and these are the colors in, you can see closer up. Ming, there on the left and in the middle, tree frog, and on the right is campfire. Then you have grapevine, warm, and cool. You have empire, earth, and denim. So the new logo is used with the entity's name beside it and Seventh-day Adventist. So you'll have the new logo. Beside it, you have ministry, the department name, and then you'll have administrative entity of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So this is the new layout for the logo, entity name, entity type. Just showing you some examples there. And the final example, Seventh-day Adventist Church General Conference, Seventh-day Adventist Church Jamaica Union, and it could go on and on. The most important part of the change is what is referred to as the creation grid. Ellen White, in Publishing Ministries, page 224, says, in the night season, I was present in several councils, and there I heard words repeated by influential men to the effect that if the American Sentinel would drop the words Seventh-day Adventist from its columns and would say nothing about the Sabbath, the great men of the world would patronize it. It would become a popular and do a larger work. This looked very pleasing, she says, and they began to work on a policy to make the Sentinel a popular success. This policy, she says, is the first step to a succession of wrong steps. So she was warning them about our paper there, the Sentinel. The men of the world wanted to support it if we drop the word Seventh-day Adventist from it. But as we will see going forward, it is crucial. It is our main identity. We worship on the Sabbath. We deem the Sabbath holy. So the most important element in the design system is what we are calling the creation grid. This is a 7-column layout structure to be used in the majority of design situations to communicate our conviction that all time leads to a beautiful end, the Holy Sabbath. So we are going by Genesis 2, verse 3. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, set it apart. So the first 6 columns, as you will see in the next slide, are yours to fill it with text and images, illustration, patterns, logo, or anything else. And in those 6 columns, you shall do all your work of communicating information. But the 7th column, the Sabbath column, is to be set apart, to be special and different from the other 6 columns as a reminder and visual celebration of the last day. So that is a blank creation grid. As you would see, it has 6. It has 7 columns, and the white line separates the 7th. Now, that's it in its beauty, the creation. He made the heavens and the earth and the land and the sea and the animals. And the 7th is left clear and pure, only for the logo. So going forward, the church will be seen doing images, portraying in this format as these examples will show. So you have, this was GAIN conference last year, and this was how it was done. Please note the Sabbath at all times, the 7th column. This is how our books will now look. This is how letterhead will look. If the letterhead is white on white paper, then the 7th column can be put in colored, and the logo there can be the white, because it has to be looking separate. If you don't wish to separate it with a color like that, then a distinct line would need to be put there to show the separation of the 7th column from the rest, the other 6. This is how the envelopes will look. Note again the 7th column. This is how the websites should be looking. Please note here the logo by itself on the left-hand side in a square. These are some of the examples of how the logo is to be used now. The recommendation is that the circle around the logo should be used for websites. A recommendation from the Inter-American Division. These are just samples. Please note the 7 column at all times. And all the columns should be of equal width. That's a shirt. So going forward to the logo, this is a church sign for the Portmore Church. Those who are watching, listening, participating can relate to Portmore Church here. That's one of the samples. That's another one that can be used. Okay, so quickly to recap, and let me say that the General Conference allowed for each divisions to choose a color or colors that they would use for that division. Our division, the Inter-American Division, has chosen the colors warm and Ming. As a union, we are recommending that we use Ming for the most part, because the color warm is looking more like orange, and it just might cause some problems, especially when maybe there's an election or something like that, and we just want to stay clear of some colors. I believe when they were looking for the colors, if you notice, there's no red that was used. That color is for China. But we are trying to stay as far away as possible from colors that might cause some conflict and misinformation to the public. So a quick recap now. If you're using, I will starting from the top, moving from left to right. If you're using the logo with the entity identifier, that's correct. If you're using it in a circle beside the entity identifier, that's not correct. It must only be used by itself with no circle. And then the next example is the box around it. It should not be used that way with any box or circle around it beside the entity identifier. Then the second row is showing that, yes, you have the 6 columns clear. You can put it on the Sabbath. That is good. But the next row is showing that if you should not put it in that column with the circle around it. It must only be standing by itself, no circle, no box. The bottom section, which is separate from the previous 3, is saying, yes, the circle around the logo is good, but there's an exclamation on it when it's used by itself or in a square. Those exclamations are saying, be careful how you use the logo by itself. Just putting it down somewhere because you want to say this is the logo and we're putting it down. It has to be connected to something else, just as in the grid. So maybe in the grid, in the other 6 columns, you would have had Jamaica Union Conference or Central Jamaica Conference or Seventh Adventists. So there's a connection. When they see the logo, yes, they'll know it's connected. But the aim, though, is and the other one, if you're using it in a box, I understand you would have to get real clearance from the General Conference to use it. The idea that the church is going for is that whenever anyone sees the logo, without seeing Seventh-day Adventist under it or beside it, it should be identified. Just like any Nike tick that you might see. As you see it, you'll see and be reminded that it is Nike. And when you see those logos too, if you see the Starbucks sign, you know it's coffee. It's the first thing that would come to mind. Though they do other sell other goods, it is coffee that comes to mind. You see Nike, you think of a sneaker, you think of sportwear, etc. You see Coca-Cola, you know it's a drink. We want when people see this logo, based on how we will brand it, they would see that this sign represents salvation. It represents healthy people. It represents people who are unique, who worship on the Sabbath, who reveres the Lord and rest on his holy day. Again, this is a recap as I close the creation grid. You can use it. You can leave the 7-column clear, or if the paper or our background is white, you can color the 7th column. The church symbol can be used right across there and with the circle around it. Advent signs is what we are using, and the colors are the brown and the warm and all those colors that are there. But the 7th column, as I said before, is holy unto the Lord. For further information, please be free to go to the website identity.adventist.org, and you'll get more information on our global identity. Thank you for viewing and participating in this presentation.
Nigel Coke, our communication director from the Jamaica Union, presenting there on the new identity standards, how to use the logo and the creation grid to share the message of Adventism to the world. Now, one question came in, Ella Coke, was that persons are asking if we're going to share the presentations. And yes, especially this one, we will be sharing it for persons to have it. Now, just before we bring on our next presenter, LaTasha Hewitt, who will be talking about social media best practices for local church communicators, we're going to show a summary video of the new identity standards. This video was prepared by the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, and we are sharing with you to summarize what Ella and Nigel Coke have said. Please watch at this time.
Unity of faith, and we stand together just before we bring on our next presenter. However, our diversity in language can sometimes make us seem fragmented. How can we present ourselves in unity as Seventh-day Adventists? How can we use know that they are looking at Adventist material even before they The Seventh-day Adventist Church is a global community of faith, and we stand together under a common message. However, our diversity in language, culture, and personal expression can sometimes make us seem fragmented. How can we present ourselves in unity as Seventh-day Adventists? How can we use typefaces, colors, patterns, images, and layouts to let people know that they are looking at Adventist materials even before they see our logo? Most importantly, how can we create a system that is flexible enough to accommodate our diversity? The church symbol has been in use since 1997, and it is the most recognizable element of our existing visual identity system. It effectively encapsulates some of our most important concepts, so it remains a core component of the identity system. The symbol usually comes accompanied by text, the name of a local church or organization. Because of our global nature, it is also important to make sure that the design of our church logo works well across hundreds of different languages. To accommodate for this, we created a multi-language type system using Advent Sans, an open-source font designed specifically for the Seventh-day Adventist Church. This sleek, universal font, accompanied by a flat, single-tone symbols, provide a modern, cohesive visual identity for our church. Colors hold cultural meanings. We want to celebrate that. While in the past, specific colors were recommended for global use, now in this new variable color system, the logo can be adapted to match or complement other layout elements, provided it always remains a single solid color. Aside from ensuring that the symbol continues to appear on materials, the new system allows for a wide level of flexibility. The symbol is now free to exist in isolation, detached from the name of the church or entity. When not using the Adventist symbol within the Sabbath column or locked up with an entity name, the preferred version is the knocked-out circular version, which allows for a more graphically pleasing layout. In addition to creating a universally cohesive logo system for our church, we are introducing the Creation Grid. The Creation Grid is a reference both to the prophetic timeline as well as the creation week that culminated in the seventh-day Sabbath. This is a 7-column layout structure to be used in the majority of design projects. It intends to communicate our conviction that every Sabbath is a celebration of our hope in the renewal of everything. The first 6 columns are yours to fill with text, images, illustrations, patterns, logos, or anything else. In those 6 columns, you should do all your work of communicating information. But the 7th column, the Sabbath column, is to be set apart, to be special and different from the other 6 columns, as a reminder and visual celebration of our prophetic identity. We all celebrate the Sabbath in different ways, so how you make the Sabbath column different and special is, to an extent, up to you. The principle to keep in mind is contrast. The Sabbath column can be filled with just about any background element: a full bleed image, a texture, pattern, illustration, bold colors, a gradient, or even white space, as long as it is beautiful and fills the entire column. Aside from full background elements, the 7th column should never include identifying marks or text of any kind, with the exception of the Adventist symbol. From billboards and print campaigns to books and pamphlets or even digital application, this new system of design will encourage individual creativity while keeping a cohesive look and prevent visual fragmentation of our identity. The ultimate goal of this visual identity guideline system is to help people know we are all Seventh-day Adventists. We are all different, but all excited about the beauty that is soon to come.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed that video and it was meaningful to you. Just before we bring on LaTasha, we have in our studios, glad to join us, our conference president. I've been trying to get him here for some time, but very busy man, but we're happy to have him. Sir Pastor Levi Johnson, president of Central Media Conference, and a big supporter of technology and the work of and Ministry of Communication. Pastor Johnson, welcome to our online communication training.
Thank you, Pastor Chambers. Let me use the opportunity to express thanks to you, sir, as the Director of Communications in the Central Jamaica Conference, and also the members of your team.
Yes, sir.
Just recently, we had a very successful net program
Yes,
at the
yes.
Portmore Church. We are still getting good remarks based on the impact of that program.
Yes.
And here we are again providing training for our communication personnel in the conference and by
And worldwide.
extension,
Yes.
worldwide. So you see where Central Jamaica Conference now is able to provide training for the world.
Yes. Yes.
And I want to commend you, sir.
Yes.
I really want to commend you for the initiative, and it can only get better.
Yes.
We are hoping that through this training, our members will understand how important it is for us to access, to harness the technology, because that is the way to go.
Yes. All for the glory of God.
All
And for the spreading of the gospel.
All for the glory of God.
And I must say my word of commendation to the administration.
Hello. Hi, everyone. As has been stated, my name is LaTasha Hewitt, and I want to say thank you, first of all, to Pastor Damian Chambers for inviting me to be a part of this online workshop for the Central Jamaica Conference. I think it's amazing that you have a theme like all disciples, using all media to reach all people. Hello. I guess I need to turn down my Facebook. Sorry. I'm following the whole workshop myself. So this is very exciting. Like I said before, I'm very happy to be a part of this workshop. And what I will be sharing with you all is what I've learned that has worked best for my churches within Allegheny East Conference. And we're part of the North American Division and the Columbia Union. I'm just strictly sharing, like I said, what's worked for us. And hopefully it will be something that will be beneficial to the churches within your conference. So before I begin and go to my presentation, I would like to say a word of prayer. So let's pray. Father, we thank you for this opportunity to learn how to be better communicators of your word through the use of social media. We ask that all who are joining with us will learn something that they can take back to hasten your coming. We thank you for this time together. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen so that you can see the presentation. And we're not going to stick to this like a script. We may deviate at some point. And that's okay. The important thing is that you have the information that you need to be successful with social media. One thing I can say about social media is that if we really want to reach the world as quickly as possible and as far reaching as possible, social media is the way to go. There has been a lot of debate in terms of whether social media is of the devil because of all of the other things that you may find there. However, on the converse, we've seen that so many people have been converted or their lives transformed because of something they've seen on social media or an invitation they saw on social media that led them to something, to a congregation that encouraged them to have a deeper relationship with Jesus. And so we believe that social media is just one of the many ways that we can reach people to win souls for Christ. So what I'm going to share with you today is some statistics about how social media is working in our churches and some of the tools we can use to maximize our reach. So looking at some stats in terms of how churches are using communication and social media, we see that websites are number one, and that's also important. I always promote websites with all of my churches, but as you can see, social media, 71% of our churches have social media. So if you really want to be relevant, it's important to not only have a website, but to have a social media presence. The stats do not lie. That's where the churches are now, and that's where your church needs to be as well. And when we think about social media, there's so many different platforms. And as you can see here to the right, Facebook is still the most popular for churches. Twitter coming up second. Then, of course, YouTube with a lot of our video content. And then you see all of the others that follow. So primarily my comments will center around Facebook, but a lot of them can be adapted for other programs and platforms as well. And as you can see with this next graphic, those who were polled, which of the following does your church actively use? Once again, second to the website is the Facebook page, almost equivalent there. So if you have a website, it's also important to have a Facebook page. So let's see what we're talking about. The first thing about social media is that you don't just want to hop on because everyone is there. You really want to sit down with the pastor or the leadership team, the communication team, and ask, why are we doing this? Are we doing this just because everyone is doing this? Are we doing this because we want to have a spiritual presence? Are we doing this because we want to give information? Are we doing this so that people can know about our events? If you start with the why, it really dictates everything else in terms of how you handle social media with your church. So it's very important to not just jump on there without a plan, but to really investigate and think deeply about why you want to have a social media presence. And so we're going to talk about 4 elements of social media. As you can imagine, it's a very broad subject. So I'm trying to narrow it down to the elements that I think are most important, especially for churches who have not yet set up an account or those who are there but are not really sure what to do or where to go. And as I go through each section, if there are questions, I'll be happy to answer them throughout the presentation if I can. If not, we'll wait to the end and get all the questions that may come up. So let's move to the next thing, which is account setup, getting started. Some people feel intimidated when they say they're about to go and set up an account for their church. Anyone who's done it knows it's a very simple process. It does not take very long. So do not be intimidated by setting up the account. But there are some things that we should consider. First, select a manager, because nothing's worse than having a social media account, but no one is monitoring it. And it's very important to choose an individual or individuals, because it can be more than one person. Someone who's responsible, they're reliable, and they're knowledgeable not just about social media, but also about the church and the nature of the church, because you also want your social media presence to reflect the personality of your church. As we know, each church has a personality and a certain culture, and the person who's managing your social media should also reflect that in things that are posted. So it's very important to select a manager that's appropriate for your church. And like I said, it doesn't have to be one person. Social media can be a lot to manage. So it is ideal if you can select a team to have multiple people who are managing your page. That is something that I do at my office, my administrative assistant. We work as a team so that when one can't do it, the other one can, and we constantly have a presence. All right, next, choose an appropriate name for your page. Sometimes I know with our conference, we have churches that have the same name, but they're located in different cities. So even though you may have an abbreviation or a nickname for your church, it's important that it's very clear which church is being represented. So for instance, we have a few of our churches who have the same name, First Church. So when First Church goes on social media, we ask them to say First Church, Washington, D.C., or First Church, Baltimore. So that is distinguished which church we're talking about. And even though the church may be familiar with the abbreviations that are used, those in the public are not. And if you're seeking to reach others with the post, it should be something that, or with the page, it should be something that others can identify the church appropriately. So make sure you're not choosing something too quirky, but something that really represents the name of the church. Okay. And as you're setting up the page, make sure you complete all of the profile. There are sections where you can put the address, the phone number, website. Maximize on that, because if someone likes what they see when you post and they want to get more information, instead of having to search around online, they can simply click in your profile and see all of the information that they need to contact you. So it's really crucial to make sure you take advantage of as much information that you can put about your church there as possible. Okay. And in terms of that information, I mentioned website, the address, the phone number, or even a contact person if someone has a question. And you can also encourage them to message you through the Facebook page if they have any questions about anything. Okay, moving along, choosing appropriate settings. Now I have here, set up a page, not a profile. Any of you who are on Facebook know that you have the option when you're setting up an account to do it as an individual. I encourage all of my churches to use the page option instead of a personal profile. And based on what you're planning to do, you want to be identified as an organization, not as an individual. And there are certain limitations that apply to the individual account that doesn't to a page. And it gives you more opportunities to reach out to your audience to be set up as a page. And you have a little bit more control over certain things. So, for instance, with our Facebook page, we have, we set up notifications where if someone wants to post, well, first of all, no one can just post to our page. They can only comment on a post. And once that comment comes up, I have to approve. No, I take that back. There's an option to either approve it before it's posted or to be notified when someone posts. We opted to go with allowing individuals to post and then being notified so that I can go and check. One, I didn't want, if I put up a question, I didn't want people to have to wait forever, or when I had a chance to look at it, to be able to post their responses. But at the same time, I have to be diligent that when I do see that a post is there, that I look at it right away. And we'll talk about why that's important a little later. So you really want to set parameters that are comfortable for your church in terms of what can be posted on your page and who can, whether people can share it and things of that nature. And that falls right into developing guidelines. And that planning stage, when you're setting up the account and asking why, it's also crucial to either consult the pastor or even your union or your conference to see some social media guidelines overall, and then some that are specific to your church. And that might include, do we want to put sick and shut-in individuals on there? Of course, if you do that, we'll talk about that later, you would have to get permission. But you have to decide what's appropriate for our page, what's not appropriate. Are we going to do these things? Are we not? So that when requests come in, you don't have to make a snap decision. You kind of know what your guidelines are and can follow them and share those guidelines with church members who may ask you to post different things. And I'll give you an example of that. We had someone contact us because they were participating in a 5K run. And they thought, since they were a member of the conference, that we would help promote their GoFundMe page to raise some money for this particular cause. Even though we support the individual, we did not want to set ourselves up for individuals to send us their personal things to be posted on the page. So that was a guideline that we set. If it was something that the church was doing or a fundraiser for the church, that's a different story, but we didn't want to be in the business of promoting individual causes. So those are the type of guidelines we set, and so your church has to decide which ones are appropriate for you. Okay, let's keep moving. After we've done the setup, which is very important, let's look at maintenance, because as we know, if you're not maintaining the site, what's the point, right? So here's some elements that we want to look at. Be consistent with your posts. No one likes to go to a page where nothing's happening. You go there once, you have all this information, and then you never hear anything from them again. And with the social media atmosphere out there, people are constantly posting, and it's very easy for you to get lost in the traffic of everything that's going on if you're not being consistent with your posts. And so you never want to leave your followers hanging. You always want to keep them engaged with something going on as often as possible. And please, please, please respond to messages or questions as soon as possible. It's pretty much just customer service in general. Just like when someone calls an office and leaves a message, and we promise them that we'll get back within a certain amount of time. This is also just as important that when someone messages the church or asks a question about something that you've posted, that you do respond within a reasonable amount of time, because it shows your followers that not only are you there and really actively engaging them, but that you care. You care about their question, you care about their concerns, you care about their inquiry. So make sure, and that's why it's important to have that responsible manager, because that person would be on it when it's notified that there's a message, and they will respond. Now, you will get individuals who will send you messages at odd hours, 3 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock a.m. Don't feel obligated to wake up or rise out of your bed when a notification pops up. You can set some standards where messages will be responded to within these hours, the work hours, or hours that are comfortable for the manager. Since you're dealing with a church that operates over the weekend, it's a little different. But don't feel obligated to respond right away if it's at, like I said, early in the morning. But make sure not too much time passes before they get a response. Very important to maintain your followership. Okay, and in addition to that maintenance portion, please remove inappropriate comments as soon as possible. And that's why it's important that if you have a setting where people are free to make certain comments, that you're also monitoring when someone may say something that is inappropriate. And you do have trolls that exist on social media who will go to pages, specifically church pages, to either try to bring an issue or some type of situation that they want to possibly shame the church or make the church feel uncomfortable. People will go and do that on your page. And it's appropriate to protect your brand and remove those things right away, because sometimes if someone sees a comment, inadvertently they associate it with you, and then before you know it, someone thinks that you're actually supporting this type of speech or behavior. And that happened to us. We had a gentleman who would, every time we would post, he would comment with something totally unrelated to what was being posted. It was actually very long paragraphs about his life and struggles with his mother and things of that nature. And it just was not appropriate for a church Facebook page. And I, from time to time, tried to hide the comments, because you do want to be sensitive to people who are going through different things. But after a while, when you recognize that it's probably going to turn off the readership, or if you see other people commenting, what is this? What's going on here? It's better to just go ahead and remove those type of posts to not confuse individuals or to get caught up in a controversy. And there are some guidelines when people will try to stir up issues online about some of the things that you post. And it's probably best to handle most of those things offline and not to get in some type of social media sparring with individuals who are commenting. Okay, let's see what else. Use the scheduling option. This is one of my favorite things. If you're busy, if the person who's managing the account is busy and can't always be on top of things, maybe there's one day a week where they can set aside some time and plan to schedule things. And this is where you can take a post, totally create it, and then schedule it to be posted at whatever given time that you give it. And that makes it very convenient for those, like I said, who have a busy schedule and they want to make sure they're being consistent. They can take chunks of time to plan out their information and schedule it to be posted, so that you don't have to worry. You know the information is going out. And the thing about scheduling is you're not locked into it. If you change your mind about that post, or something's going on in the media where that might be insensitive to post it at that time, this is your opportunity to go in and just cancel the post before it's posted. So it's really a convenient option, and it kind of forces you to plan ahead so that you're being very intentional about what it is that you're sharing. which leads me to another favorite feature of Facebook that has benefited us very much, and that is boosting posts. And when you say boost, you're pretty much paying Facebook $1. It's usually $1 a day to boost a post. And this has worked really well for us when we're promoting events such as our camp meeting or church events that we think people would be interested in. This is what will bring your post high into the list of those who are following you. And so we'll keep looping around that. Even if they don't see it their first time around, if you boosted the post, it may pop up in their feed a little later. So this really helps get you a little bit more traction on some of the important things that you want to make sure are circulated. So please, and if you don't know how to do that, this is the thing about Facebook. I didn't want to show you all through this presentation, but if you go to the help portion, it will show you how to do all of those things to boost the post. And it's very simple. You would have to set up a credit card with the account. So when you boost the post, it automatically charges that card. And another great feature with Facebook is you can target your posts to preferred audiences. For instance, for our conference, we have 6 areas. And that goes from New Jersey to Washington, D.C., Virginia area. And so if I know there's an event happening in that portion, I can go in and select the states where I want this post to go to these people who registered through Facebook that they live in this area. And they will make sure that those who are in that region will get that post before everyone else within your fellowship. So that's awesome because you want to make sure the people who are in that area are getting that information. So take advantage of that targeting feature. And even if you're doing like a kids or child event, it's very good to use an age range. I know people are saying that kids are no longer on Facebook, but that's not true. Some of them are still there. And so if you're having a youth event and you want to make sure the kids are seeing this post, you can use an age range to make sure that those are the ones who see your post primarily. So great feature to use. All right, we talked about setup. We've talked about maintaining the page and making sure we're taking advantage of certain features. And now we're going to look at content. You know, what are we putting on our social media page? And that's one of the questions I get a lot from my communication directors. I want to post on social media, but I really don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. And so I have a few ideas that I would like to share and some considerations about the content. The important thing with the content is you want to make it count. You don't want to just post things for the sake of saying you did it, but you really want to do it with some intentionality. And so it's very helpful if you develop a social media content calendar. And that is where you're pretty much looking at the year. If your church has a church calendar where you're listing all the events, that's very helpful, will be very helpful for you in this process, because you can look at certain things that are going on and say, Pastor, what's our theme for this year? If he says our theme is evangelism, then you can, and your team can look up things dealing with evangelism so that throughout the year, you're posting things related to the theme for the church. Or maybe on a particular Sabbath at the church where it's stewardship day, you could have an emphasis week on stewardship leading up to that day where you're posting things about stewardship. So it's really good to have a plan, looking at the calendar year of the church's calendar year and their activities and deciding how you're going to use that to help dictate what your social media content will look like. That continuity really goes a long way with members and others who are looking at your church for different activities. They see it when they go to the church, they see it on the social media, and the more we know, the more people see things, the more it sticks. So it's good to have that continuity between the content they're seeing at church, what they're seeing on the website, and what they're seeing on social media. And developing this calendar also helps you keep up that consistency that we were talking about in terms of making sure you're posting on a consistent basis. All right. So I mentioned some content ideas based on some of my other comments earlier, but one of the popular things for churches is your events. And it's good to post the things that are going on in your church. And with the events, and most of you who are using Facebook, when you're trying to post a flyer, you'll see this little notification that tells you, this looks like you're posting an event. Would you like to set it up like one? And that's also a good feature because you can create an event through the Facebook page and church members can actually RSVP, or invite their friends and they can RSVP, so you can get a feel from the social media of who's interested in attending your event. And the thing about people signing up for your event is that people can see when their friends sign up for something, and that might bring more interest to your event and more people. So that's always a good option to take advantage of that. Or you could simply just post a flyer and decline that request. One of the things that was important to us when we were discussing our why is we wanted to be an inspiration to our membership. We didn't just want to feed them information. We didn't just want to tell them about events. We wanted to pick them up throughout the week when they're doing the work week or dealing with things throughout the weekend. We wanted something to show up from us to say we care, or some bit of encouragement. So sometimes we share scripture, sometimes we share a devotional thought, just things that generally uplift people, so that our membership can feel and sense through social media that we care about them. And so many have responded to say, oh, that's just what I needed. Or I was just reading in my devotion this morning. And it builds this connection with your members through social media. And sometimes that's a safe place for people who have trouble interacting with people one-on-one. Social media is a way that you can connect and inspire and encourage people. And once people are inspired and encouraged and they have you to thank for it, they may even decide to join your church. And if not, at least you know you've done your Christian duty to lift up your brother or your sister. And the other thing is information. Sometimes when we have changes, I know we were just talking about the creation grid earlier. When we have changes like that and we want to get the information out to our congregants, that's another way you can use social media. So people can go on their Facebook page or their Twitter, Instagram, and see information as it comes out. It's one of the fastest ways to get information out to individuals quickly and allow them to share it with others. So take advantage of the opportunity to share information. A lot of times people feel that social media is a little too informal and it may not be appropriate to put important information there. However, as we know, some people view Facebook as the official source these days, even more so than some of our reputable companies that share information. So don't feel that you need to hold anything back when it comes to social media. It's actually to your advantage to put that type of information there. Updates. When I say updates, I'm talking about maybe there's a new pastor coming to the church. Maybe new officers have been elected and you want to take that time on social media to introduce them to people. People like to feel like they know what's going on, or they're being included in what's happening with the church. Maybe you have a campaign to raise money for the church and you want to put something on Facebook. We're almost at our goal. That kind of engages people and it may encourage them to give as well. So that's awesome. And Facebook Live, that's also one of my favorite. Of course, many of you are viewing this right now through Facebook Live. And it's good to have those formal things too, where people know they can log in and see a nice program. But my favorite part of Facebook Live is those unexpected moments where you're capturing something that people may not be expecting to see. One of the things we did in our office once was to Facebook Live, just walking into our president's office and seeing what he was doing. And people respond well to that. It's like they get an inside peek into what's going on. And so we encourage our churches sometimes to go on Facebook Live behind the scenes before the service and see what the pastor's doing in the pastor's study. Different things like that, just to add some levity sometimes to the church and make the church a little bit more palatable to people who think it's a little too staunch and sophisticated. Facebook Live kind of breaks down some of those walls. And so it's a good idea to try to encourage those types of videos from time to time. Another part of the content is if you're going to post something, and we've all been on Facebook or some type of social media, it has to be catchy. Dull images just don't make people stop the scroll. They'll just keep that finger rolling, keep that cursor going down until they see something that catches their eye. And this example I have here is part of the photo gallery of one of our churches that they're constantly posting different things that are going on at their church. But the thing I like about it is that all of the images have something in them that grab you, whether it's the text or the image itself. There's something that's captivating and makes you want to see what they're talking about. So when you are posting things, make sure that your images reflect the excitement of whatever event that you have going on. Okay. And don't forget to use captions and to tag individuals. And with the captions, we always say less is more. We do have individuals who are, they like to include paragraphs of information with everyday text. And there are individuals who will read them. But for the most part, whatever is visible before you hit the read more is what people remember or are more likely to read. So make sure your captions are to the point, they say what you want them to say, and that the most important information is there. One thing that has worked really well for us in our churches is to tag individuals. And when you tag individuals, it expands your reach because now all of their friends will see what they've been tagged in. And then that brings more attention to whatever you're sharing. So, and I will mention this a little later, but it's important to, as a courtesy, I always like to ask people if I can tag them. Of course, if you tag someone and they're uncomfortable with being tagged, it's okay because they do have the option to remove the tag. But I found that that really expands the reach of who's seeing the information. If you're at church and something's going on and you capture a picture, I would also at that moment say, do you mind if I share this on Facebook on our church page? And when you do that, you're going to get that permission right away so you don't have to worry about that. Okay. Moving right along. Use hashtags. And I always make it a point when I talk about hashtags to explain what they are, because some people hear hashtag, but they really don't understand what it means or how it functions in the social media world. I like to refer to hashtags as the great aggregation, meaning if you use a hashtag, let's say we use the hashtag CJC, whenever you post, if someone were to go into the search bar of Facebook or any other social media platform and typed hashtag CGC or even clicked on the hashtag itself, it would aggregate any posts that had that same hashtag. And so that's really helpful. I encourage my churches to use it. I encourage our areas to use it. So if someone's looking for a church in a particular area and they click on the hashtag, they can see everything that's happening within that area. And that's very important because it can actually help bring more attention to other things if someone sees a hashtag. And I have here hashtag fun. Hashtags are just fun. Sometimes we just put hashtags in there because it's funny for people to read and it's really not about aggregating. But I know particularly on Instagram, people use hashtags because some people are notified about certain hashtags. This is the post you may be interested in, and it can really expand your reach to people who may not even be interested in church or anything related to it, but because you're hashtagged in there, it's now seeing your information. And I will be answering some of the questions a little later. They're not visible to me right now, but as soon as they are, I will tackle them. And I always say to people to include a call to action. And what I mean by that is, if you please share this with your friend group. We have this event coming up. Please share it. We love for you to share with your friends. So that's always important to do. Or if you're having an event and you're putting it up there, you can ask them to share or to register. Register now. And or if you want to say save the date, this is something you need to know, you can put that within the caption, and you're more likely to get a response when you ask for one. So don't forget to do that. And I mentioned before, get permission to tag someone's image. I personally, unless we've had prior conversation, sometimes I don't like to be tagged in certain things, especially if my image is not there, but they're just trying to pretty much milk me for my friends. So I always say, get permission from individuals. You never want to turn someone off because they feel like you're kind of exploiting them through Facebook. And also get permission to take pictures of individuals, especially when it's close up and that you plan to project, because we do want to respect everyone's privacy, and some people are not comfortable with that. And last but not least, review. Take some time to look through your posts. Don't just post, and never go back to review what's happening. You want to figure out what's working, what's not. And there's a way that you can do that. Look at the post engagement. You can hover over or look at your post and you can see how many people viewed it. Of course, you can see the likes and things of that nature, but you can also see that who even looked at the post, who opened the post. That can be more telling than your likes. Some people get really discouraged when no one likes what they post, but it's okay. Many of us have done it before. We've looked at every detail, and in our excitement about what we're reading, we forget to hit like. It doesn't mean that information wasn't received. It just means that they either forgot to hit like or they're just not people who like to do that. So never get discouraged by the amount of likes or dislikes that you have, but more so look at the people who were engaged or saw the post. That's very telling. One of our most popular posts was for our president's birthday. We took a picture of him and we said, oh, wish Elder Fordham a happy birthday. And it really surprised me how many people took the time to comment, to share with him, and how many expressed their love for him, and they just wanted to see their president. So I made note of that. Our social media followers are very excited about posts that include our president. So these are the types of notes that you take. That worked really well. Let's see how I can use that again to gain more attention to our post. You may post something and no one responds, very few views. That may be an indication that that's not really what your audience is looking for. So instead of just staying committed to it and continuing to do it, even when you don't want to, even when you see that it's not working, is not a good practice. Okay. And at the same time, please don't be afraid to try something new. Like I said, if it's not working, don't keep beating a dead horse. Looking to do some other things. And one way to be inspired by that is to see what others are doing. Social media, in the social media world, it's okay to snoop and look at what other churches are doing and how people are responding. And you may not copy those methods right away or exactly as they have them. You will adapt them to fit your church's needs. But it's okay to look and see how others are being successful on social media and then being inspired by that and bringing your church something similar to your church. Social media world is there for inspiration. And so don't be afraid to do that, to look at what others are doing. Okay. And now I wanted to open up to see if we had any questions. But I do want to encourage those who aren't currently on social media to keep doing it. It's one of those things where it can be very, very, I could say frustrating sometimes when you feel like you're only talking to yourself out there. But that's okay because no matter what, there's usually somebody who's following what you're doing. And you don't have to worry about that. So I guess we are actually going to take some questions a little later. And so I'll wait for Pastor Chambers to share those with me. I look forward to any questions that you may have about social media. Appreciate the time sharing with you. And if you have any questions, like I said, I look forward to answering them through this online workshop or even after the fact. So thank you. Turning it back over to you all. Oh. Oh, okay. There's a question. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. Oh, am I willing to share my presentation with the public? Yes, definitely willing to share. Oh, okay. Any final words? What I would like to say about social media is, as I said in the beginning, our call as Christians is to spread the everlasting gospel. And I think sometimes we underestimate how social media can be used to do that. It provides some innovation in sharing God's word. It gives us the opportunity to share videos, to share sermons, to inspire people, to meet needs. And I don't want people to be clouded by all the negativity that's there on social media. I believe that as Christians, we can take over social media and make it a force where God is glorified. It's a place where God is glorified and where our message can be shared to all people we may never meet face to face, but because of something that we've posted or shared, they began to develop a relationship with Christ, or at least have an interest that they may never have had. And with social media, I always encourage our churches, when you're going out into the community, that's a great time to have a social media presence so people can really see what you're about, that we're not just a church that's about doctrine, but we're a church that's about love and reaching all of God's people. And so I really want all of our churches to take advantage of the social media platform and transform it. And don't let the negativity that's out there make you shy away, because we know that God will always outshine the devil. And so go out there with the force. Thank you all so much. Continue to be great communicators in God's work. And it was nice sharing with you tonight.
All right, thank you very much, LaTasha. I really appreciate that presentation. My audio was off earlier, so let me just repeat what I said earlier. That was a thorough, well-presented presentation on social media best practices. You covered the whole gamut, and I believe that persons may want to go back to that presentation as reference, and I'm happy that you're willing to share it with the public. Thank you again, LaTasha. Keep doing what you're doing, and God richly bless you. Now, thank you, listeners. Thank you, viewers on Facebook, live on YouTube for joining us. And I pray that this presentation will truly help to bless your ministry in the worldwide web. Now, just to let you know that we too in Central EMEA Conference have established social media guidelines. You can visit our website, centralj.org, and go to the Communication Department's page. You can find a guideline for use of social media. All right? Guys, thank you so much. We are closing off a week of online training. We have learned some stuff ourselves, while I'm sure you have learned some interesting things. Just to let you know that we have one more presentation that we did not get to show you, and we're going to be taking the opportunity to stream it. We'll announce it when we're going to stream, and so you can have it. We have a presentation by our Assistant Director from the Inter-American Division, Libna Stevens. She did a presentation on news writing and photography. We didn't get to show it in its entirety, so we have to do that for you, for your benefit, and so that you can benefit from it. But we'll announce it on our social media platforms when we're going to share it so you can have it. But otherwise, thanks to my staff here, our team leader, Charles Bulgin, the rest of the crew, Wendy and Kimberly, O'Neill, Andrew, and the entire team. Thank you very much, and God richly bless you. Continue to use the technology to help to build bridges of hope in preparing men and women for the coming of Jesus. God bless you.